I think a lot of us were rather surprised to hear that Pope Francis had passed this morning. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. What's kind of curious about it is some of the other things that I've discovered that seemingly go along with this entire story. We've discussed in the past the Saint Malachy prophecy. And of course, a lot of people are talking about that currently. I have a little bit of a different angle than I've seen on other channels. And that's what we're going to get into in this video. Apparently there was something that was written about back in the 50s, 1950s, by a certain person. Let me just show you that really quick. Alice, of course, Bailey. She published Lucifer, magazine, and talked about something happening this year in 2025. So it was kind of weird because I remember playing a clip probably, I think back in December, maybe November, December, somewhere in there last year, talking about all these orbs and drones. You remember that whole thing? You remember we were talking about that? We were talking about something that was put out back then saying that something is going to be happening in 2025. And this is when they'll be introduced to us. I thought it was kind of curious, and you might think that has nothing to do with Pope Francis, but actually maybe it does. And like I said, we're going to actually get into also the Malachy prophecy because there is a couple ways you could take this. This could be literally the last pope, and that could lead into this whole thing. Right back here, you got Independence Day with Will Smith. Remember that movie? That was one of the first, other than E.T., it was one of the first movies that really got large, sort of about an alien attack, and it united the world against them. They're always trying to find a way to unite the world. Could this be the actual intention? To unite us as one people, like we saw back at the tower, of course, in Babel or Babylon. Could that be what the devil is trying to bring to pass? And actually, I'm going to show you a number of clips that kind of show that's basically what they're trying to do. They had all that UFO disclosure last year. Then we had all those bizarre orbs and drones. And they have actually a number of people saying that something will happen this year. We also had the, was it called the Lucifer telescope as well in the Vatican? Actually, it wasn't in the Vatican. The Vatican rented it. It was on a mountain. I'm trying to remember. I used to do videos on that as well. What's it called? Lucifer telescope. We have Lucifer, of course, magazine. It's kind of weird. It's sort of right in your face. Yeah, here we go. Please find below a section of images provided by the Vatican. I literally type in Lucifer telescope. Vatican Observatory. Well, they don't own it. They just rent it. They just rent it forever. I mean, there's a lot of people that like to rent things. It doesn't mean that... And of course, one of the oldest videos on my main channel is about Lucifer or the devil. There's actually a compartment underneath the Vatican that actually has a picture of the devil and a room dedicated to him. Why would they have a room dedicated to the devil underneath, of course, the Vatican? That's kind of weird. I made that video back in 2018. I don't even have it pulled up, but you can go check out my oldest video. I think it's it's the second oldest video on my main channel. God Rules. See if I can go find that real quick. Here's my other channel. Go to oldest video. Right here. That video right there. It's got almost 5 million views now. And of course, yesterday I did a video on Mel Gibson. He's going to be making Passion 2. But we'll get into that later in this video. But I just thought it was kind of curious. The timing of his death on Passover is rather curious, considering that he died on Easter Monday. This is from Vatican News. So some are saying, oh, Easter's over on Sunday. Well, apparently, according to the Vatican, it's not over. It actually ends on the end of the 21st. So basically right before it turns to 22nd. Easter Monday. We have, of course, Pope Francis dying. And I think that is actually significant, and I'm going to show you why. Because, of course, he said something back last year in September about all roads lead to God. I don't know if you remember that or not. I'm trying to find, I got, like usual, a million windows open. Actually, let me show you this. So we actually have the fact that he died on Passover, right? Well, that's kind of interesting because you remember the story in the Old Testament, Egypt, the Egyptians. What happened to them on Passover? We're talking about the first, born. We're talking about, of course, their sons. Could this be related? I think you might have to ask yourself that question, considering it's the exact same time frame. And it happened to the leader of one of the biggest churches in the world, the Catholic Church. Can't say this is just a weird coincidence, can we? Because, of course, he did indeed say something last year in September in Singapore. All religions are a path to God, and I went over that way back when. And there's no way you can argue it away or say, no, that's not what he said, because he literally spent about 15 minutes saying it in multiple different ways, so there was no room for misunderstanding at all. He explained it numerous ways. And he even mentioned the other religions by name. He's not talking about Protestants. He's not talking about like people in the faith. He was talking about Hindus, Buddhists, etc., etc. And he went and said that. He said all of it. He literally said it three different ways, so you could not at all be confused whatsoever. And I thought that was rather curious. It's because like he wanted to make sure you knew that the leader of the Catholic Church is literally denying his own, of course, faith in front of you in September last year, which, by the way, the date was kind of weird as well. He landed in Singapore on the 11th. We're talking, of course, in a particular month that sounds familiar, September. Put those two, that's kind of weird. But they say that he said it on the 13th. I don't know if he did or not. But if you know what that actual date is, 2,000 years ago, someone was born on that day. Okay? His name's Jesus. So let me show you this. Actually, I have it up. I had a video. I showed it before. Let's see here. 3 BC. See if we can pull it up this way. Yeah, here we are. I already found it. Okay, so it's one of my old links. Check this out. So this is a video.
Shown that from both.
So in this video, let me just show you this. When is his birthday? Right here. And that might have been the day that he said that. That might have been the day that Pope Francis said, all roads, all religions lead, of course, to God, which, of course, is not true. He said, I'm the way that, Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes for the Father except through me. Was that John 14, I think, or something? My mind's getting, I have cobwebs up here from trying to remember where these are all at, these verses I have memorized. But the fact is, it says that in Scripture. And so could this be intentional that he, of course, died during Passover weekend or week, or however you want to describe it, Passover, Easter Monday, as they call it, as the Vatican themselves call it? Actually, this is the wrong one. Where did it go? Here it is, way back here. This one. On Easter Monday. With, of course, the story of Moses and Egypt on Passover. Kind of strange. Wouldn't you say? That's a little strange. Could this be related? Could that be sort of an answer to what he said back in Singapore? Right here. Interreligious dialogue and all the things he had to say. At any rate, so I think you get the idea. We're going to get into actually a ton of more stuff. We're just getting started here. First, I want to mention, go check out my website, GR Videos. Link is in the description. I have lots of awesome videos, deep dives, even in the free video section. You can make an account, do whatever you want. There's also a membership section with thousands of videos. It's about the cost of a Starbucks coffee per month. And of course, I have lots of videos about the medieval times, the Vatican, etc., etc. Link is in the description for that. Of course, also this book here, The Lost Ways, How Your Great-Great-Grandfather Lived Without Electricity, How to Build a Cellar, do things around the house like they did in the good old days, hundreds of pages illustrated. You don't know what's next. Could it be Gog and Magog? Might want to be prepared. I know it sounds kind of weird, but what if you don't have any food? What if you can't get to the store? Might want to have this book on how to live without electricity also. I got all those links below. Go check them out. Also, gold and silver link below if you want to go check that out. Gold and silver is going up currently because of all these things going on in the economy. We've got deals going on at AppMex. Go check it out. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So we have a number of things to talk about here. I mentioned how they're talking about AD 2025 as the year. The first stage of when it will happen. Referring, of course, to beings, perhaps from another planet. Check this out.
12 of his 30 years in black programs, and he said, absolutely, positively, they do exist. There's a lot of things that are going on there that I won't be able to tell you until the year 2025.
What is this?
2025. I saw even another interview on top of that one of another guy who worked. I can't find the link because it's been like several months or a few months since I talked about it. But it was another guy in the military up high saying something after he retired, very similar to that about 2025. And I played that clip, the other one, back end of last year because of all the orbs and drones and all that stuff. So I thought that was rather strange. You got the Lucifer telescope from the Vatican. Kind of weird. Seems a little interesting how it might relate. You got these prophecy of popes. Now, I want to get into this. There's actually two ways to look at this. And I didn't realize that until today. And I went back and I looked at my old videos to see if it was the case or if something happened, like some sort of, Mandela, of course, effect or something. No, actually, it was there before. It was there before. So it talks about how there's actually a paragraph separation between the list of popes and the final pope. So you have this 111 popes listed here by St. Malachy. And this is not the original, by the way. This is not the original text. I went and tried to find it, and it's actually extremely hard to find. Even an image of what it looked like. But I did find one writing of his. I'll show a picture here in a second of something from the Middle Ages written of it, but it's not the original, but it's from the Middle Ages. But at any rate, this is obviously much more recent. It's in a book. Probably 18 or 1900s, probably, I'm guessing. But you can see the list of popes here, and it is exceptionally accurate. These mottos that were given to each of the popes and how particularly accurate it relates to each pope. And I've went through that many times in the past, but I didn't know about this part. So apparently, this was Ratzinger here, Benedict the 16th, right? So he was the glory of the olive, which, of course, he was of the Olivetan order. So that makes sense why that would be him. I've shown this before. Pope John Paul II was born on a solar eclipse. He also, his funeral was on a solar eclipse. And it says, of the eclipse of the sun was the motto for him. I mean, this is written 1,000 years ago, almost 900 years ago. That's pretty accurate. Okay, that's kind of accurate, right? So when we get down to Pope Francis, I just assumed that, Peter the Roman was the next one after Glory of the Olive, but it may or may not be the case because apparently there was a paragraph separation between the two. Many analysis of the prophecy note that it is an open to the interpretation that additional popes would come between the Glory of the Olive and Peter the Roman. I didn't even know it said this. I don't know why I didn't notice this. Popular speculation by proponents of the prophecy attached the prediction to Benedict's successor. Since Francis' election as Pope, proponents in the internet forums have been striving to link him to the prophecy. What's interesting, though, is it says his name, he's going to be called Peter the Roman, and Francis is Latin, not Roman. So that's kind of weird. Maybe it may or may not have been him. We don't know for sure. It says that Peter the Roman will pasture the sheep in many tribulations. Now, some say, yeah, we've went through some. You could say we've went through some, but I don't know if you could say they were very dramatic. I mean, we did go through various things as he was Pope. Some crazy stuff, 2020, that whole thing, sort of the Ukraine war and all that. I mean, but they've had wars forever. We've had them literally forever. So I don't know if I would call that many tribulations. Okay, so I don't know if he is it, actually. That paragraph in between, the space in between the 111 of them and this last one, maybe there's something that goes on in between. Or perhaps it means this. Perhaps Francis isn't mentioned because he's not deemed worthy of being mentioned in it. And what do I mean by that? Well, he's the first Jesuit pope, first ever. And if you know the history of that order, they're not supposed to become pope. I'm going to show you that in a second. But here, let me show you this. Here's a picture from a medieval book about the prophecies, but it's actually not the original. So you can, that's just another example, but there's also this. I saw this, but I don't think it's about it. And it's only a little section of it, but I think it is the original writing. Now, I just mentioned he was of a certain order that is not supposed to be permitted to become pope in the first place. Let me show you that. And of course, they've kind of rewritten this. So, it's okay. It's just kind of rare. In reality, though, if you go look at writings before or around the time that he became pope, everyone was shocked that he became pope. Okay. To understand Pope Francis, look to the Jesuits. And of course, as you scroll down here, I noticed this. We never imagined that one of these could become pope. It was an impossible thing. And this is coming from someone who's part of the order saying this. We never imagined that one of us could become a pope, who conducted a book-length interview and knows him well. It sent me into a crisis, in a sense, when he was elected. We're not supposed to be at the service of the Pope, not to be a Pope. This is what he said, a guy who actually is part of it. But of course, ever since then, 10 years, fast forward a decade later, it's normal. It's okay. It's fine. A guy from the exact same order is saying, no, it isn't. Okay? Maybe that's something kind of important. You even had this from the LA Times. In an office he's not supposed to seek. It's LA Times saying this. From a religious order that traditionally shuns such a high office, one key reason the Argentine is the first to lead the vast Roman Catholic Church, scholars say perhaps he's not supposed to be one in the first place. Maybe that's why he's not mentioned in the prophecy. I'm not saying that. Some are saying he still is Peter the Roman. Some are saying that now is going to be the end. We're going to see all this stuff happen. I kind of feel like it's instead, he's one of, I feel like there's going to be, Peter the Roman's going to be a Roman, probably, or something tied to Rome, not a guy from Argentina that isn't even supposed to be there in the first place, right? And if he isn't considered legitimate, perhaps he's not going to be enlisted on a prophecy. I don't know. It's kind of weird to think of it that way, but that might be what it is. We have scholars that analyze this prophecy of popes, and they were saying this way beforehand. They were saying this. I went and looked back at one of my older videos, and it had this right. It hasn't changed. It didn't change overnight. It said this way before he died. Many analysis of the prophecy note that it is open to interpretation. Additional popes would come between the glory of the olive and Peter the Roman, because there's a paragraph space. It separates. And so I don't know. It's hard to say, but it is indeed interesting how we're seeing at the tail end of last year about the UFOs and orbs, and we saw them disclosing about aliens. And then, of course, we had the Lucifer, telescope. We had Lucifer, of course, magazine. You have what Alice here wrote, the externalization of the hierarchy in 2025, meaning that at this point, their hierarchy, which of course would be these fallen, of course, beings, will be made known to the public and out in the open. Now, so this comes back to something else I talked about. I talked about how we were in the age of Horus, according to Crowley, and now it's going to go into the age of Thelema after that. And that had to do with social, justice, which of course has been a complete failure. So they were successful with the age of the child, or age of Horus, but now they're trying to transition to the age of Thelema. And this is where they want to unite everyone into one group, kind of like we saw at the Tower, of Babylon. Okay, that's what they're trying to do. And what's a good way to do that? Oh, we all unite against the aliens. See what I mean? Like that movie Independence Day, like back here. And of course, that would also lead to the externalization of their gods, or whatever you want to call them, fallen angels. And so that, I think, is what they're talking about, because we had two different guys that worked in these projects. We're talking in the GOV that were familiar with, UFOs and stuff, saying these things. We have even here Greer talking about how the movie Independence Day is a perfect example of what they wanted us to become, to be united against this evil coming against the world. Here you have Will Smith. Check this out. This is, of course, when he discovers there's a ship above the city. Kind of like what we saw last year. A little bit bigger, though. Kind of big, actually. A lot bigger than those orbs. It's a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. Yeah, so obviously you also have Steven Spielberg. Disclosure, upcoming sci-fi film, has begun filming. He's been doing lots of... It's kind of funny because he's done numerous... Over the last, I would say, decade and a half, he's had a lot of movies and TV series about this topic, yet for some reason he doesn't... When he was interviewed, he says, I don't know if it's real. Well, he's talking about it all the time, which is kind of funny. Why are you talking about it all the time if you don't believe in it? It's kind of weird. So this, of course, leads to what a lot of people have been thinking is going to occur. You have L.A. Marzulli has talked about this as well. Greer. And, of course, you can even see it in movies. I just showed you Independence Day, but you also have a recent movie, Venom 3, where it's tied to the Statue of Liberty, which is kind of weird. Check this out.
I would like to see her when we get to New York, Eddie.
You know, she was built to welcome visitors to America, buddy. That's you.
You think so, Eddie?
Oh, yeah, I know so.
Yeah, any type of visitor, right? Exactly. So, of course, this ties into the Statue of Liberty. And it ties into the age that they're trying to bring us, of course, into Thelema, which has been a complete failure so far. A perfect example is Snow White and Rachel Zegler, because the entire point is social, justice, the whole woke thing, which has been a flop. They were successful in making everyone into a child, not wanting to grow up, not wanting to take responsibility, not actually having real goals in life, being completely selfish, self-interest, which was basically what the age of Horus was. But Thelema has been a complete failure. Devil's not doing too well in this one. And, of course, one of the things that's going to unite us so we can be like back in the tower is the aliens coming after us, right? So that's apparently the only way they're going to be able to unite us together. And if you look at the history of the Statue of Liberty, kind of interesting. we are preparing here in America a new, of course, race, which, will exhibit the perfection of the glories that is said were being slowly brought to the surface from the long forgotten past. It's supposed to be like an Atlantis here. Here and nowhere else are to be found men and women of every, of course, type living together, being governed together, attacking nature and the problems of life together, bringing forth children who combine, of course. And I think it's more than that, because I think they want to bring it to what we saw in Genesis with the giants, where you're uniting, of course, with maybe things like AI, or even more than that, perhaps aliens themselves. It's kind of weird, right? But of course, first they need to somehow unite us all together in one purpose. What better way than some sort of invasion on the world, right? Kind of like we saw a preliminary of that last year, right? We saw all those weird, drones and things of that nature. Kind of strange. Maybe there's some relation there. And so I'm kind of curious about all this. At any rate, I was going to show you some other stuff, but I actually talked about it in my last video. If you go check out the last video, I talked about a miracle that happened this resurrection season. A lot of people call it Easter. Holy fire in Jerusalem. Go check it out. Kind of interesting. A miraculous thing that actually occurred in Jerusalem. At any rate, that's my video. I'm kind of wondering what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.